recently wrote an op-ed, an open letter, rather, taking aim at Bernie Sanders' economic policies. Let's talk about that. What is the issue you have with Bernie Sanders' economic policies?
Well, it wasn't with his policies. It was with the analysis of his policies. And together with other former chairmen of the Council of Economic Advisors, Austin Goolsbee, Christy Romer, and Laura Tyson, we wrote a letter asking all sides to use plausible economic analysis. We saw voodoo economics. We saw the disaster that caused for the U.S. deficit. We don't want to see voodoo from Vermont. We don't want to see voodoo from the Republican candidates. And we just asked all sides to use plausible economic analysis. And there are many things in Senator Sanders' economic plan which I agree with, investing more in infrastructure, bringing more economic justice. But I think the notion that it would lead to 5% growth, like the notion that Donald Trump's ridiculous tax plan, where he doesn't even specify any spending cuts, would lead to 6% growth, is absurd.
Yeah.
Doesn't conform with standard economic analysis, and that's what we asked all sides to abide by.
So it's really, how do you pay for it? But what specifically? Is it the fact that he's going to raise taxes so much? Is it the fact that he's promising free college and free health care to everybody? What specific is most onerous to you?
Well, what I admire about his plan is he actually pays for what he says he's going to do.
Right. What don't you admire about the plan? What I'm really getting at is, what is the issue?
The issue is the economic analysis that the campaign embraced, which concluded that there would be multipliers from government spending which are 10 times higher than what are plausible from past experience. So that was what we criticized. The same type of criticism applies to Republican tax cut plans, which say that growth would magically be 5%, 6%. We've seen when we've cut taxes before, it didn't lead to faster growth.
He doesn't want to cut taxes, right? He doesn't want to cut taxes, right?
I'm just saying on all sides, we'd like to see plausible economic analyses.
Well, hi, Professor. This is Steve Warner here. Well, look, I mean, we did the tax cuts, and there have been cases where we've gotten more revenues. And I think this is going to be a big issue if Donald Trump or whichever Republican candidate is, because they're all talking about cutting tax rates. And look, I agree with you on some of the craziness of the Sanders agenda, but the Republicans are going to make a plausible case that if we cut our corporate tax rate and they make America more competitive, we're going to get more jobs, we're going to get more growth, and we're going to get more revenues. Do you have a problem with that kind of dynamic analysis?
The problem with it, Steve, as you well know, is it doesn't accord with reality. President Clinton raised taxes. We had stronger GDP growth, much stronger job growth under President Clinton than we did under President Reagan.
Well,
President Obama raised taxes.
But that's not true. I mean, Reagan,
you know this. Absolutely true.
Wait. Reagan cut tax rates, and we doubled the tax revenues over the next 8 years.
The deficit expanded under President Reagan,
but I'm talking about
we had a surplus.
The revenues went up.
Steve, you know that we had a surplus under President Clinton, and the economy did better.
Yeah,
so making these fantastic claims about how tax cuts are going to grow the economy just don't accord with what we've seen over the last 35 years.
So you think higher taxes then grows the economy?
I think smart investment grows the economy. I think making good decisions about spending. I think improving our tax code. There's certainly plenty of space for improving the corporate tax code. But these fantastic ideas that we could give away $10 trillion of revenue.
When you were in a position of power at the Council on Economics, working for the president, you know, inversions were going on then too, right, Alan? There was a lot of money overseas then too. How come there wasn't a change in the tax code to encourage companies to bring that money back and encourage companies not to make their headquarters in Ireland?
Oh, President Obama has a pretty comprehensive corporate tax reform proposal. It didn't move in the Congress. And actually, Dave Camp's proposal, I think, was something we could have worked with, but it was just held up by the House of Representatives. So I think that there is some scope to improve the corporate tax code, no question. Well, but the idea that it's going to lead to 4%, 5% growth is fantasy. I think we need to use some plausible economic assumptions and not mislead the American people about what these types of proposals will achieve.
Well, except, you know, look, I mean, President Obama was the one who had an $830 billion stimulus bill, and the unemployment rate ended up to being higher than you guys predicted, even if we hadn't done the stimulus. So, I mean, all presidents do this, and you know, Obama has been the most egregious. I mean, we had $1.5 trillion deficits under Barack Obama after the stimulus plan.
Well, first of all, Steve, you got to recognize the deficit relative to GDP is now lower than it was at the end of the Bush administration. We've created far more jobs under President Obama than we did under both Bushes combined. And GDP growth has been just as strong in spite of the massive Bush tax cuts, which blew up the deficit.
Well, that's fair. That's a fair point in terms of job creation, Alan. I totally understand what you're saying. But in terms of Secretary Clinton's plans, real quick on that, I want to get your take on why you believe that plan is actually going to lead to economic growth.
Well, one of the cornerstones of her plan is a strong proposal to improve our infrastructure, to invest in our roads and highways.
And how do you pay for that? How do you pay for that?
She has a proposal which is paid for. There are elements of investment like bringing back a form of Build America bonds, which helps to pay for these types of investment. An investment bank, an infrastructure investment bank, which would lead to smarter investments in infrastructure.
That sounds like voodoo economics. I mean, you haven't really said how they're going to pay for all this spending.
I dare you to tell her to tell the American people that we need to raise the gas tax for the first time since the mid-'90s in order to pay for it. I dare you to tell her that, because she won't run on it.
Just look at her proposal.
All right.